Top War just released 5 new skills that whales can research in their class. And the reason I say whales is because they're the only people who are going to reasonably have access to these new skills. And people are rightfully upset because they believe a lot of these are unbalanced and could potentially break the game. One skill in particular is where combat elites now have the potential to be able to ignore a weakening tower under certain circumstances. And while I think this whole class update is a complete dumpster fire, that is actually not the part that I'm worried about. That one's not too bad when you look carefully at some of the other stuff. Now, before we get to the broken stuff, let me explain why it takes so long to upgrade these new skills. Just like every other class skill, research time, food and oil, class items, and now, power cores. Ain't it pretty? It's $1 each. And you only need 8,970 to finish your whole class. So, whales. Have fun buying those. But don't worry, Top War's generous. They gave us a free method to be able to take care of it. You can get 2 a day, and that's it, from the Legion store for 300 points each. And for those bad at math, that's going to take you about over 12 years to be able to get enough to finish your whole class. Devil's Advocate, I imagine they'll put this item in future events. I mean, they better, because who's taking bets that this game is going to last for over 12 years? Oh, by the way, about those power cores, you're not even able to buy them out of the Legion store or with real money until you're far enough down in your class that you're actually able to use them. So, if you wanted to get a head start, silly goose, that's cheating. Now let's talk about how a combat elite can completely ignore a weakening tower, because why not add that to the game? To understand that, though, we have to understand the morale system. The morale system works differently for mechanical masters and combat elites. And mech masters, you have something broken in your tree, but we're going to talk about you in a moment. Combat elites, you are able to, if you research both of these skills fully, have a maximum of 10 morale. And for each morale you have, you get a 3% damage increase. So you can have a whale walking around with a 30% damage increase, because that's just wonderful. Now, you are able to gain morale by winning victories. However, if your opponent is a lower level, you have less chance, if not no chance, of gaining morale. Also, you never seem to gain morale on the first victory. You have to have at least 2 victories in a row to be able to start gaining morale. You are able to lose morale if you spend it. We'll talk about that in a moment. Or if you lose a battle. And because I told him I would, here's a video of me getting burned, because we wanted to see if you got burned, if it would remove all of your morale. You're buffing. I don't even have comps on. Oh, a dragon. It does not. It removes 1. And he did a second burn just for good measure, because it only removes 1 morale. Also, you can research this skill, and it gives you 5% all unit attack for every morale above 3. In other words, if you have max morale, you have a 35% all unit attack increase, and this other skill gives you a permanent 15% damage decrease no matter what. So that's the morale system and the other skills. Now let's talk about ignoring those weakening towers. The final ability of the combat elite tree, which allows them to ignore a weakening tower for 1 battle at the cost of 5 morale. This is an incredibly strong ability that, if used at the right time and place, can definitely change the tides of battle. However, I don't think it's necessarily as overpowered as everyone says it is. I think it's overpowered, just not as much as they say. And there's a few reasons for that. 1, this is an incredibly rare ability. The class is too expensive and too time-consuming to finish. Most players won't have this, so it's a rare issue you'll confront. On top of that, again, for them to do it, they have to spend 5 morale. They immediately lose 15% of their damage increase, so they have to temporarily make themselves weaker for this fight. And on top of that, just because they're ignoring your weakening facilities don't mean that theirs take effect. Weakening facilities only work on defense, so if they attack you using this ability, it just means it's a normal battle where both sides have the same attack speed. So if you have a bunch of people defending a building, you still have the potential of being able to fight this person off. I mean, good luck. If they finish their tree, they're probably a whale, so you'll need some strong players in there, but there's still a chance that you can fight them off. Now, the reason I'm not as concerned about this ability is because I'm actually more concerned about the bonus they get from morale. Just based off the morale, they get a 30% damage increase if they're maxed out, as well as a 35% attack increase. That's a lot of stats for a whale to be walking around with extra. I know they have huge stats to begin with, but do you really want them to have more? And they get to use that for every fight as long as they keep winning, where if they ignore a weakening facility, that's only 1 battle and they lose some of their stats. So I'm actually more concerned about the morale system being overpowered than I am about them ignoring a weakening facility. But again, If you ignore a weakening facility at the right time and place, it could change the tides of battle. So, I mean, it could come down to how well that person can actually use that ability. Now I get to you, Mech Masters. You have something that really favors the whales, and it irritates me. Granted, you guys are not as overpowered as the combat elite tree. You do have something that does bother me. Now, let's just real quick go over your morale system, because like I said, it's different from combat elites. For each morale you have, you get a 3% damage decrease instead of increase. You can gain a morale for winning or losing a battle, so it's easier for you to gain morale. You can spend 3 morale to summon a drone that does extra damage in the fight. If you max out your class, your drone attacks twice after each normal attack instead of just once. You get the same 15% damage decrease that combat elites do, blah, blah, blah. The urgent care facility, that thing favors whales. At max stats, this is a new tower that Mech Masters are able to build that will repair 15% of the friendly units that are damaged within its range. The reason this favors whales is because if you have a free-to-play player that has 500 units, and let's say he sends all of them out and they all die, that tower is going to help him recover 75 units. But if you have a bigger player, a whale per se, that can hold 1,500 units and damages them all, they send them all out and they get all damaged under the urgent care facility, they get 225 units back. So the more units you have, the more this tower benefits you, which naturally is going to benefit bigger players over smaller players. This whole class update they just released, in my opinion, is a complete dumpster fire, and it just makes the gap from free-to-play and VIP 16 even bigger. And if you're not a free-to-play, this should still concern you, because if you're right in the middle and the gap gets bigger, those VIP 16s just got farther away from you than they did before, so it's even harder for you to compete. And I mean, free-to-plays hardly have a place in the game anymore. This is absolutely ridiculous. I want them to trash this update completely, but unfortunately people have spent money on it, so it's unlikely that they will undo this, because that's a whole mess of things if they try to undo something after someone's already purchased things. Now, obviously, the class update was the most important thing that happened today, but it wasn't the only thing that happened today. I often find little tips, tricks, and bits of information that are too small to make full videos on, but they're very important, and I post things like that in my Twitter. If you don't have Twitter, I also feed my Twitter into my Discord, so you can check it out there. Both of the links for those are in the description below, so I recommend giving those a follow. There was something about certain heroes' combat stats being raised today, including Maximo. So I found out some information about that would be interesting to most people, so definitely check that out. But thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you to everybody who subscribed. And as always, have a fantastic day. I'm going to go get a drink.